for those of you who don't know me, I'm formerly the owner of Swahili African Modern. I sold my company about a year and a half ago, and I'm now working with artisans to connect with buyers with international buyers from other countries. Now, let me introduce my partner here.
Hi, my name is Goodie. I'm based in Nairobi. It's nice to meet you all. Some of you I already know. We are actually at the store now. Some of you have been here, and you know that my love is for artisan. So I'm really looking forward to engage with you today. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think one of the big points we wanted to make in this webinar is that what we're preparing is not a fair, it's a trade show, which is quite different from selling at in a marketplace or signing up for a fair that's done in and around Nairobi. This is for professional buyers. They'll want wholesale pricing as well as production. So I wanted everybody to be prepared with a very clear wholesale price list, and know that I also want to know who you're talking, that you should know who you're talking to. We are going to have badges for the professional buyers that come in, because there will be some other people that drift through that are at the hotel or at the Sarit Center. So you'll be able to identify who they are. So next slide. Oh, sorry. Again, change the slide. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you need in your toolbox? You know, you're coming to a fair. It's not your normal fair that you're coming to sell products. And I think this is a first one for Nairobi, a first one for Kenya, where we are having an international trade fair. The most important thing to know is that we are getting buyers who are looking and focused on wholesale buying. So this is not a retail fair. The main focus is wholesale. So what do you need? The first thing you need is business cards. So I don't know how many of you have business cards ready, but if you don't, it's something that you have to put on your list. A business card that has your name, your phone number, your WhatsApp, your online presence, IG, Facebook, website. You will also need a notebook whereby you can put anything that comes up. You need a notebook to say who you're talking to, anything that is important that you can revisit so that it can help you to remember. We do not have to think that I will remember everything, but you need to write. So you need a notebook, and then you need FOB wholesale price list. This is very, very important because you need to know what the prices are. And because this is also something that is very new, most of us might not have the wholesale price list, but it is very important. So you're not just selling one, but if a buyer asks you, how many can you do? What is your production capacity? Can you produce 100 pieces of this? So what is the price for 100? What is the price for 50? What is the price for 20? So you need to have a breakdown of how much the quantity will be. You, of course, will need a pen to use with your notebooks to keep on noting what you're being asked by the buyer. And this should be very handy so that good shoes, because most of the time you'll be walking around, you'll be on your feet. It will be very good to be able to meet and be comfortable so that when your shoes are not pinching you and you look uncomfortable. You will also need promotional materials. And what are they? So maybe you have a company which has a name. So you could have a t-shirt that has a name of your company, or you could have something that brands your company. Maybe you have a banner. If you have a banner that explains your company, you can also have that in the background. You need stapler and tape because you will need to get information. You exchange cards. So you need to have a formula where you're storing these cards, because many times we pick up cards and we don't know later who was this or whose card was this or where did I put it. So if you staple these cards and put them in good order, you can be able to follow up on your notes. So you need a box for the customer cards. This is part of being organized. You would use a stapler tape the box for the customer to put their cards in, so that later on you can come and remember who you talked to, so that I hope that you will follow up with them after the show. Also, to make your space comfortable and beautiful and attractive, because this is very important. We have 40 artisans, and so what is it that draws people to your stall? It's your display. So your display really has to be attractive and something that pulls attention. And also, if you have a good display, people remember you. There's something about it. So you need props in your display area. You could have boxes put on top to raise so that not everything is in one level. And you can see the picture behind you. It actually gives you example of a good display. So the props will really help you in having a very good display and also a very good connection on attracting people to come and visit your stall. So yeah, thank you. And remember, you have your questions at the end so we can revisit. Thank you.
Yeah, so the photo before was a picture of one of our booths that we did at New York Now, and it's a really good example of having props and displays. So for your pre-show planning, this is very important. Practice setting up your display at home. Each person will have 2 tables. They're large tables, and we're trying for 3. But for now, I think they're 8-foot tables. We will have tablecloths to cover them, but if you have something yourself, please bring it along. Now, when I was doing shows in New York and San Francisco and all over the US, we always practiced setting up at our warehouse. So when we got there, we had pictures and things to use to make it go fast. The next point is collections and themes. Collections are so important. You don't want to have, let's say, 20 items on your table and none of them match anything. What we want to do is develop a theme. So example, if you have soapstone, maybe you have a box, a napkin holder, or a frame. Those would be your collection. And what I would say is, instead of offering it in all the different colors you can do it in, maybe show one color, but keep under your table some other colors so you can pull it out and show a buyer. You can have it, let's say, in black, you can have it in green, or you can have it in blue. The next point is review your wholesale price list. Now, I know we've brought this up about 3 times now, but I can't tell you how important it is. There's nothing that makes a buyer, they won't be confident if you're just pulling things out of your head. They really are not wanting to bargain like you might do at the Maasai market or something, or a fair. Double check your toolbox, make sure you have everything you need. If you don't have your business cards, go ahead and get those started. If you have signage, that's very, very helpful. But if you don't have it, please don't stress about it. We're going to print off some copies to put on everybody's table with your company name. Photos of your entire line. Now, something we'll talk about in a little while is not cluttering your table. You don't want to put everything you have out. So let's say you can take pictures of some other things that you couldn't bring to the show. And yeah, I think that's important to show a buyer everything that you can do.
So there's a lot of things that you have to remember, and I do hope that you have your notebooks and pens that you're using now to put on some of these points. And of course, Leslie and I are available later for us. If you want to discuss, you can reach out through the different platforms. So the setup materials. So we will have 2 lines of tables. and then we'll have signage, you have tape, you have pens, you have razors, you have scissors, you have a phone charger. At the space, we do have electric points that you can use to charge your phone. You have pins and hooks. You have boxes for the breakdown. So as you break down your items, then you can, as you break down, during the breakdown, you can store all your things back onto in an orderly way after their exhibition. So there's a lot that you need, the setup materials, and I hope that already you're preparing for this, because I think part of a successful event is preparation. So I hope that we will not be able to start preparing just a day before. So you need to start prepping early so that mentally you are aware and alert and know what are the things that you need. So these are basic tools that I think at any exhibition you will need to be able to have a professional outlook. And that is really important. And this lack of preparation normally shows when you go to a show, you would see the people who are not prepared. So you keep on revisiting this. I hope we'll be able to share with you this after the presentation so that you can use it as a way of reminding yourselves. Pins and hooks are good for setting up, for hanging things up. You might also add up pegs that are something that you could use if you don't have the hooks. Something else that you might need is a tape, scissors. So I'm sure those are the basic tools that you already have right now. Yeah. Maybe I could let Leslie talk about the risers on the list.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in here. For those of you who don't know what risers are, it could be anything. It could be just like a box like that turned over, and products can go up on here. Can you see that? As well as below. It creates more space and it gives it some dimension. So I highly think very highly of risers. Now, it can be cardboard boxes. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. And before I forget, one other thing is setup starts at 12 o'clock on Tuesday. So please be there, be ready. We'll have everything set up. It is secure. The inside of our space will be locked at night and you can leave your products there. But we do have some outside space and we're working on thinking about how to secure that in the evening. This, I'm just going to jump over it real quickly because we already went through most of it. I'm just going to go back again to don't clutter the tables. That's a big mistake that almost everybody makes. We want it, less is better in this situation. Again, we have underneath the table, so you're welcome to store some things under there. So if somebody likes one item, you might have more underneath. So I think we can go ahead and change that.
So trade show etiquette. So what is the etiquette? So part of it, we said wear comfortable shoes. The reason is we don't want to look lazy and sit throughout the show. You can take breaks, yes, but you can sit, there'll be chairs provided, but some people would sit down and maybe in between when you don't have people at your table, you could be looking at your phone. So we'll really try to avoid that. And if you want to do that, maybe you can step out. It's a beautiful space. So if you need a break, you can find somebody to attend your booth and you can step out and look at your phone. Don't look bored. Sometimes the boredom is there and that puts away people. Somebody will walk by your store because you look bored. So always have a smile. And I think that is part of the toolbox. A smile is always handy. Warmly welcome your guests by introducing yourself. You do not have to push them to come to your store. Hey, come to my store. Because sometimes that's what happens. Maybe an hour has passed and nobody's passed to your store. So the next person you see, you want to pull them out and say, hey, I'm here. That is not professional. Sometimes a smile, eye contact would be something that's really good for you to use to pull people to your store. stay off your cell phone. I would suggest that we keep our phones on silent, and maybe time it that maybe you check it every other hour, because I think looking at your phone will always make people feel that you're not interested in what you're doing. So keep it on silent. So no music. We will have background music, because the cell phone is always a big distraction. Another thing is we have to dress accordingly. We are professionals. I think we have to show that the artisan world is professional. So how do you look? Are we coming up with a t-shirt that's written with the message that let's go dancing? What is the image that you want to portray? If it is your brand, I give it a tick. But if it's selling somebody else's brand, I don't think that that will be acceptable. So also something else you can do is ask before entering another exhibitor's booth. This is just being kind and polite. So we don't just take it for granted that we can walk into somebody's space because we are part of the team. So just be kind enough to say, may I go in, or use your body language, smile with your eyes, and you will know whether they are yes or no. And at this point, I think it's also important that when you use your phones, before you take any pictures of anybody's product, it's good to ask them. So don't assume that it's fine to take pictures. Ask. It is polite. Keep your booth neat and organized. Sometimes after a buyer comes in, you're pulling out everything out. There's a bit of mess. After they leave, put it back into place, or sometimes have a little bit of a reorganize, and that is allowed. We also have a schedule, so there'll be programs that will be shared. We need to adhere to the schedules. So look at the times. When are you supposed to be there? When are we supposed to shut down? So we will have to be very, very aware about the timing and of the whole event. We will share this information as time goes through, and I'm asking you that please engage with us. We're available for you. If you have any questions, reach out. We have the WhatsApp groups, we have emails. Talk to us, ask questions that will help you through this process. So copying other people's work, you might see something that looks really nice. Please do not copy. We're artisans. We are creative. Let it inspire you, but do not copy, because we have so much. There's so much need for new items. You can be creative, and this is what the artisan sector is about. Be creative. Do not call out potential customers as they walk by. We know that when we go to the markets, people are always pulling you, please come, please come. We want to make the fair very, very happy place where people do not feel like they're bullied or harassed to come to your stall. If you adhere to all these things that we're talking about, your stall should be attractive enough to pull the clients around. And even if you do want somebody to come, you can politely approach them during the breaks. Introduce yourself politely. You do not have to say, please come to my stall. You have to come to my stall. Politely ask them, I would like you, if you have a moment, to come and visit my stall. So that's part of the etiquette, and I'm sure we will keep on revisiting this. Thank you very much.
Something else I just wanted to add, which is not part of the PowerPoint, is about the buyers themselves. There'll be, I think, about 16 international buyers, and then there'll be buyers from Kenya and Tanzania. But I'd say only 25% of the buyers that are coming have been to Kenya before. So the 75% are going to be so interested in talking to you. So even if they're not interested in your product, they would love to chat. And well, the way I look at this business is that you're not just buying a product, you're buying into a country and into you're buying into a country and into something you love. So feel free to talk to them, even if they're not interested in your product. And then on another note, There are some very large buyers coming, and I'm not going to tell you who they are. And then I have some that are more the size, I'll say medium-sized buyers. So it's going to be quite an assortment. Collections. We're going to go back to this again. If you see, this is a collection we had from Zambia at the New York Gift Show, and we put all the baskets from that country in one spot. If I was to have scattered them around the booth, nobody would have seen what the actual collection looks like. Collections are key for increasing one's sales because they won't just buy one, they're going to buy the whole collection. So you've now made an order for one thing, you've now made it, maybe they'll buy four. Keep your collections together on the table, don't spread them out. Something that absolutely happens all the time is buyers will come through and make a complete mess of your table. Let them make the mess, but make sure you put it back together afterwards. This was a constant problem for us when we did shows. Keep your colors together. And I've already mentioned this, but limit your product mix at the show. Again, we don't want soapstone, handbags, and jewelry all on the same table. What you want is you're the expert and show people that you're the expert on that collection, whatever it may be. Let's see. And only bring what you make. I've had people already call me and they wanted to bring their spouse's things or they wanted to bring their cousin's things. We just want to see what you do. And again, you're the expert in that, in your collection.
So showcasing your products. How do you showcase your products? Well, you can create a very interesting layout so that I think all the stalls do not have to look the same. We will provide tables, but you have to have a very good layout for them to see and get attracted to your stall. So this will also encourage the buyers to come and explore your display. Avoid cluttering. Sometimes we have everything everywhere, but we say you can theme how you display your items so that it's very, very easy for buyers to see, to touch the samples that you have. So your display is very key to you selling this product. If you have them all cluttered around, then it becomes messy and the eye is competing for attention. Everything is competing for attention. So in a split second, somebody should be able to see some products that really attract them. Some of them might not talk to you because these are professional buyers. This is what they do, and this is why they're coming. They're coming to buy. They're coming to source products, and they're very, very focused. So it's really important for you to showcase your products without cluttering so that when they're reaching out for a sample, it's a situation whereby it's embarrassing that everything's fallen down or they cannot find what they're looking for because it's right under, but know where your products are so that even when they ask you, could I have that one, you already know how when you pull it out, everything will not fall down. So as Leslie said, we can use the risers to create the space and depth. 2 tables in a creative way. We're going to be there as well to help you to showcase your products. So we will help you with what you bring to be able to showcase your products in a professional way. Always keep your tables clean and organized. This is very important. You know where your pen is, you know where your cards are. It's easy to reach out. You could even do it with your eyes closed. So, it saves on time. So it's very important that if you're organized, again, it's part of attracting people to who you are. It also really shows whether you are organized with your work. A very cluttered table will already tell a story. This is a person who's not organized. So the way you present yourself already tells a story about who you are and how you work. So again, we are stressing this is a wholesale trade show. It's really to showcase your products. If they see a product that they want, they will even call you aside, maybe after seeing it, and you can book an appointment through the days that they are available, and then you can talk about it. So you're not going to sell the normal way where you're expecting to have lots and lots of money by the time you're going. We hope that you'll be able to sell after the buyers have seen a lot of the products, but the connections you make, we hope that will help to build and foster long-lasting relationships that could be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. We have people who had relationships with the buyers for up till 10 years. And some of them we will have already showcasing at the show. So I hope they'll be able to share their experiences of how they've done it. So you're not really counting on the sales you'll make during the 5 days. It's the sales that you will make after the show, I think really, really tells you how successful you are. And I really hope that some of you or all of you will at least have an order to say, this is my success. But I'm really encouraging you, let's use these also as a growth platform so that all the experiences that you go through, you can use. And really happy that PBP has accepted to host the first buyers trade show in Kenya. This is a first off, and I think I'm really proud of all of you to be part of this. And so let's showcase our products well. Let's leave our spaces clean. Anything that is untidy, put it under a table for storage, but always present yourself very professional, very tidy, very organized, and let's tell a beautiful story about our artisanal work.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing to what Goodie said, is that very few buyers order at the show. So I didn't want people to be disappointed if they didn't get an actual order at the show. It usually happens after. There'll be a lot of questions asked, and even if you're tired, I totally encourage you to go home in the evening. And if a buyer says, how much if I buy 100 of these? You don't have to answer. Don't feel obligated. You can go home and think about it. And I would contact them right away and say, okay, I did my numbers and this is what I could do. Okay, a buyer engagement, very, very important. Always speak with them, obviously, but again, even if they're not interested in your product, just converse with them. For those 75% of people who have never been here, they are going to love talking to you about your lives, about how you got into artisanal work. What are your successes? What are your failures or your challenges? Know your product inside out and backwards. People will ask about it because they're going to want to know, does it have toxic chemicals in it? How long would it take for you to make 100 or 200 of these? So know your product well, and don't be afraid at all to explain your challenges. That's not a problem. The buyer would prefer that than not to know. And a great story sells your product. So please think about it. Think about how you got into this, into making this product. Is it something your family was doing and you learned from them? Or is this something you learned in art school or through a friend? Anything you can do to share with your buyer is important.
So the post-show follow-up, and this will be turning your inquiries to orders. As we said, this is a wholesale trade show. That's the main focus. And most of the returns, I think, we will see after the show. So what are you going to do? We have to turn these inquiries into orders. You'll be collecting cards, you'll be sharing your contact, ask questions. If they ask you about some things, can you do it in these colors? Do your research, keep your contacts, and follow them up. Some of us forget after the show, and this is why it's very important to be organized. You have your notebook, you have your pen, you have your card box where you're putting all the cards that you collect. Please turn these inquiries into orders, and that way we'll be able to say how successful this platform will be. And I think we're thanking PBP and all the people who are organizing this. We are putting a lot of effort to make it as successful as possible. Your only work to do is to really prepare yourself mentally. Think about the questions that you would be asked that you don't know. Do your homework, know your product, tell your story, print a catalog, print a price list, and have everything at your fingertips. And that will really prove a successful a point of getting your orders through. Thank you.
Okay, review your notes carefully. What I used to do was I'd collect a business card if somebody gave me one, and I would write my note on the back, like they're interested in salad service or they're interested in bowls. So as soon as I turned it over, I was able to see and follow up accordingly. Send a thank you note to anybody that comes by the stand. It's important, even if they're not buying from you, maybe they'll recommend you to a friend, but they will remember you if you send them a follow-up note. Complete sample requests promptly. You know, that is so important. Most buyers will want to do a follow-up shipment of samples because they will change things or rearrange your products a little bit. And we will organize a shipment that will be sent following up after the show. Always ask questions. I think some of us are shy to ask questions, but people just love it. You can ask about their businesses of utmost importance, but you can also ask about their family. Where do they live? Where in the United States? Who is their target market? That's a big one because you're going to have different kinds of buyers. And an example is we have one buyer coming from South Africa, and she's more in the tourist industry. But then we have other buyers coming from the States who want modern products. So there's a big gap between those two. Communicate, but don't be pushy. I think we've said that before. Just chat and watch for their cues. If they look like they want to go on or they would like to stay and sit with you and chat a bit. So I think you'll find buyers that just want to sit down and talk. So yeah, feel free to share information with them.
And something else to add is don't get overexcited. Sometimes you'll be asked for samples. It's very easy to say, I can bring it tomorrow, Just be very realistic and say you want samples and we feel that we can only deliver within specified time. Because sometimes you overpromise. It's very good to be realistic and give realistic timelines. If it's something you feel you cannot do, please also discuss it. And this is why we're saying you need to communicate and tell them exactly how you work. So sometimes people get overexcited. Look at your pricing. Don't give a price because you feel that this is the only way to buy it. As Leslie said, you have time and say, I'm not ready to give you the price right now, but I can go back and review. So let's be very realistic, because also in wholesale, you cannot tell them that this is the price today, then in 2 or 3 weeks, you say, oh, I went to buy my materials, the prices have gone up, and therefore I'm going to put it up. You cannot do that. So you really have to work on your pricing. And this is one of the key elements of this trade show, is you really need to look at your pricing and know also about your timelines and be very, very realistic. And also because they will expect you to have your products very, very well finished. So you do not rush to do it and then give them a product that is not good enough. Your sample, if it is approved, that is what your production should look like. So if you get an order, there is no way that they will give you room to change that product. Once a sample is approved, you have to follow those guidelines. And as we've said, communicate, 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 and ask as many questions as you can.
Breakdown after the show. That's a very interesting thing, and I've learned it over time that while you're setting up, you also have to be organizing breakdown at the same time, because you'll need your boxes and you'll need supplies, tape, or whatever. So as I'm setting up, I'm also thinking about how do I leave here. So I know the last day of the show, everyone's going to be anxious to start packing, but there should be buyers there till 5 p.m. So please don't start breaking down until 5 o'clock. make sure you have your boxes handy and tape and anything you need to move out of the space quickly. Packing will start at 5 p.m. and I would say 8 would be a good time to aim for to get out of the compound. He's tired home, so just be patient and tolerant of others, and make sure your area is cleaned up. That is part. Leave it as clean as the way we found it. Something else I'm
Hey, Leslie, if you can hear me, we're having a little bit of trouble hearing you.
okay. We're back on, I think.
Okay,
Yes,
yes,
there we
all
go.
good.
Oh, something else I just don't want to forget to tell you this because it's really important, is selling samples. We've gone back and forth on this. There will be some people that come through the show that are not our professional buyers. We're going to have tags for the professional buyers so you can identify them. So if, let's say, a guest who's staying at the Jacaranda wants to come in and see the show, they're welcome to do so. And if they would like to buy something, I'd encourage you to sell it if you have a replacement. If you don't have a replacement, hang on to it, because when the professional buyer comes through, you want to make sure you're showing them your best things. So maybe it's best to have 2 of everything. I'm not sure, but think about that. You don't want to sell your #1 samples to another buyer that comes through.
Yeah, so your samples are your main thing to keep. Yeah, and always remember that you use your notes. So even if you sell your samples, you need to have a picture of it, the dimensions of it. And I think part of where I think on the tools we forgot to say a measuring tape. You need to have a measuring tape because this is what will guide you as to the sizing, because they may change some of your products. So importance of a buyer and a producer relationship. So part of being having a good lasting relationship is your display. This is something that will be in their memory for a long time. So that will help them to remember you. How you communicate with them will be very important. And the communication, some of it is silent, it's body language, how confident you are on your product, how you know your product, how well you know your product is very, very important. So you need to communicate. This is key important. And the only way you do this, you have your business card. We said we have a follow-up. You have a thank you note to them. We do not need to harass them to tell, to remind them, I need you to buy stuff from me. You have to be very, very professional in communicating. So communication with them is very wide spanned. Your body language, how you present yourself, you have to be professional. You have to remember their emails, the names, maybe, and also being very, very smart. So it really covers up everything we have shared through the whole presentation so far. So communication is a very, very big word. So you have an email, you have your phone, you have the right person to talk to, because sometimes you have a partner who talks with them. So identify who is the right communication partner within your setup. You need to know all that. So when they're communicating, it's one channel to communicate. So you do not have many channels, which creates confusion.
Yeah. So I've been working in Kenya for over 28 years, and I can tell you when somebody disappears, it means bad news. So I know, so it's important to communicate not only good news or facts, but if there's bad news, an example would be it rained for 2 weeks and our things are damp, so we cannot ship on time. Even though you do not want to be telling the buyer that, it's best that they understand and know than for you just to not communicate. So that's super important. Okay, how to achieve this? I think Goodie went over most of it. Build trust. Trust is huge in these long-term relationships. In all the years I've been working in the field, I think I only got burned one time, which is pretty amazing. But you'll want to learn how to communicate well enough that your buyers trust you. Communicate any updates on your orders. Maybe you finish early and not late. You can even just communicate and say, we finished early, it's ready to go. Would you like it now or should we hold? Those are all good points. Again, keep buyers updated on delivery dates and any delays. One thing about delays, most buyers that come to Kenya buy from many different artisans. So it's really important that you are on the same page with your timetable, because the container can't leave if only, if let's say 3 people delivered and they're waiting for the 4th, you're hurting everybody by delaying, because payment is made when the shipment leaves. Show the customer new products, new designs frequently. They will love that, because that every 6 months, they usually try to update their line. So any new products or new ideas, run it by them. And be receptive to new ideas. Don't be hurt if they don't like what you did or a design you made. Work with them to develop any new products. You can ask them. Just say, what is this year? What are you looking for? Are you looking for tabletop? Are you looking for children's? Are you looking for kitchen? And as Goodie said before, price increases should be conveyed 6 months in advance. I know that's a long time because things change, but just think about a buyer who's at a trade show and writes 200 orders, and they have to call all those people and tell them the price increased. It's not good business. So that's something to keep in mind.
So what are your communication tips? You can choose a language in which you communicate with. English is normally the most used, and I feel that most of you will be able to communicate in English. But if not, you can all agree on which is the best language to speak. And in this also, you can say, my best communication is through WhatsApp or it's through email. What are you going to respond to first? Because sometimes you have an email is sent and it takes you a week to answer. So what is your best channel of communication? Because in most cases, the communication has to be very prompt. And this is something that you need to discuss. So if you do that, then you will be very, very professional. So don't take 2 weeks, don't take a week. Find a way to communicate and schedule regular calls. You know what is the best time. And sometimes we have time differences between the countries. So find a time that works for both of you so that your communication does not delay. In production, it's very, very important to update. And these regular check-ins will really keep everybody up to date as to what is happening. And most of the export orders are scheduled. So it's very important not to lose even 1 day in production or 1 day in communication, because this can really derail a whole order. If a shipment goes out and yours is left out, it will either get canceled or it will take another 3 to 6 months for it to go. And the repercussions of this could also be that you would lose the order will never be paid for because you only get paid for what is delivered. So you have repercussions for not communicating in time or delivering on time. And as Leslie said, if you cannot do it, communicate so that they can find another option to work around it. And remember that you're not just selling a product, you're building a successful business relationship. Some of the business relationships have been there for over 10 years. So I believe that this platform, the exhibition, the Artisan Soko, is going to open and start up new relationships that will be built, and we'll be able to look back 10 years, 15 years later and say that this is where the start of the journey was, or this was the beginning of a new way of working. So let's communicate. We have tips here. Let's use them. And I hope you're using your notebooks and your pens and keeping all this so that we can practice this during the show in real life. Thank you.
Okay, what are the buyer's expectations? The buyer's expectations are a really good product, something I'll say up to date. There is such a variety in Kenya of product. There's product that gets sold to tourists, and then there's product that's for export to South Africa and export to Europe. So you have to create a very cohesive product line. Price, which is something we've gone over and over with you, and I think you all understand, this is for wholesale. Service, there's nothing better than good service. That goes in both directions, not just your way, but as far as a buyer goes too. But they do expect excellent service and communication. Quality, now that's a big category because for those of you who've been in business for a while, there are times when the quality isn't what it should be. And that is so disappointing. I remember getting some shipments in that were mildewed or the color wasn't right. And it's so discouraging because of all the work. You know, we traveled all the way to Kenya. We worked with artisans. We placed orders. We gave deposits. And when the goods came in, they were not up to par. Keep in mind, the United States is filled with excellent quality products, and we really want to compete with that. So please, if your products are not of good quality, when you're doing your last final check, don't ship them. It's better to not ship and let the buyer know than to ship poorly made product. And then delivery, again, just delivering on time and communicating with your buyers. And that kind of feeds into packaging as well. That is something that will need to be discussed with your buyer on how it should be packaged. Some of the buyers that are coming are wholesalers and they stock it in their warehouse and they can, let's say, reshape a basket. But then there's other customers that other buyers who will be at the show and they cannot accept a basket that's, let's say, a sisal basket that's smashed. They don't have the facility to shape them. So you want to ask your buyer, what are their expectations for delivery and packaging?
So looking at your products, what is a product that is good? What are the unique qualities of the product and what sets them apart? And the reason why you are selected to be part of this show is we feel that you have a standard of quality. And that is really important, that when we showcase our products, they have to be of really, really good quality. So let's not bring products that are out of shape or products that are discolored. They have to be really nice and stand out. And this will also add to our displays. If you have a product that is bad, it takes down the quality of your display. Look also at the competition, research and understand your marketplace. Who's also doing products like me? And ask yourself, what really makes me different from my competitor? Because their products are many. So for you to be able to sell, you have to be different. The quality of finish, how you present it, how you package, how do you add on things? If you're doing beadwork, what sort of hooks do you have on your earrings? Are they losing color? Are they rusting? You have to really look at it and also compare what the other things other people are doing that differentiates you from them. You need also to clarify, keep your collection focused and targeted. So don't just make a lot of stuff. What are you doing? You have earrings. Are you having 100 different designs? Pick up one and focus on that one. So even at the display, pick up your best products, and that is what we are expecting you to showcase. Anything that you feel does not reach the standard of perfection, please leave that aside. And this is very, very important. It will be part of telling your story if you have a very, very focused collection to showcase. Cost carefully. I know costing is a very big issue for all artisans. They don't know how to cost. So really look at how you're going to cost your items, because cost could be a determining factor on whether you get the order or not. Because remember that the wholesalers are buying this to ship them out the country. So they're looking at different aspects of a product. So the story of your product does not end with them saying, we want to buy this. They have to take the shipping costs, they have to take storage costs, clearing costs. So all that will be added onto this product. So by the time you're selling it, is it sellable for them? They're in this for business. It's for business. So they need to also make their margin. So if your price is not wrong, a very good product could actually be canceled out of an order. And if you're not sure about the pricing, ask for guidance. As we said, communicate, ask, talk to them. And we will also have a team during the show. Leslie and I will be there, and I'm sure we'll be able to walk you through some of these steps and see where you're stuck, and we'll be able to help you. You need to be consistent. If the buyer orders 100 pieces, they expect them all to be the same. You will have a specification on the orders. They will give you dimensions. They will give you color. Sometimes you have very big color variations, so that if it's red, sometimes when you send the order, instead of red, it looks pink. That is something that is not allowed. So when an order, they say red, really confirm what shade of red is it, and make sure that there's consistency in color, in size, in shape. And they will give you a room for allowance. Maybe it's a -2 centimeters, +2 centimeters, and that will help you to determine whether the consistency is there. And do not send a product that does not meet the specifications. So if it is gone over by maybe 5 inches, and remember your buyer is not in Kenya, so most of the time you are doing the quality control for consistency. Don't just send it because you think, oh, I've already done it and it looks good. If it does not meet the consistency that they need, please take it out. I would rather you send less 5 than putting 5 that are reject. So please, at the show, may we show only things that we can produce consistently. And this will add to also a good lasting relationship with your buyer. Tell stories about your product. How did you start? Where did you gain this skill? What is your process of production? How many people do you produce with? Where do you buy your products from? Tell the story. How many years have you been doing it? How did you gain that skill? These are part of the stories. How many people are you employing? What impact does it have to the community around you, your family, your friends, your neighbors? How does your product impact different people? So tell a beautiful story. You have beautiful pictures, really nice pictures with your product, and make sure, I think through the process of onboarding on the PBP platform, we did professional pictures that you have a clean background. So present your products well. And I think we need to have the consistency of having a good product, a good storyline, a good online presence, a good display of your products, so that when we put things out there in front of the display, the story is also consistent. So we can tell a good story online, but when I come to look at the products, it's totally different. No, we want a consistent story through your products, and that really shows that you have a good foundation to be able to fulfill the orders that are given to you.
Production. This is kind of getting a little repetitive on certain points. Again, excellent quality, the most important thing. Sample. If there's any changes in that, it's not, you can just communicate it to the buyer and let them make the choice if they want the product or not. But they're used to, they would prefer to be contacted than for you to send something that isn't exactly like the sample. The product should be consistent throughout the years. Often, if there's a product that really catches on, you can your buyer might be ordering it for 6 or 7 years. So it has to be the same throughout that timeline. Uniqueness. Again, anything that you can come up with that's unique will sell better. As you know, if you go to any of the markets around Kenya, you'll see so much repetition. Try to make yours unique in whatever medium you're working in. Function. This is something we haven't talked about, but very important. I would say out of the hundreds of products we used to stock at my company, the ones that were functional sold better than the ones that were just visual. So something that had a use, a drum, a salad bowl, spoons, something to wear. Functional products are by far sell better than things that are just decorative. Again, good value. That's a hard one because in the US, I'm just talking about the US now, excuse me, there's various other markets. You want to make sure that it's in line with other similar items. Ease of shipping, that's another big category. If you're selling, I'm going to give you an example. If you're selling baskets, make 3 sizes and each basket should fit into each other. Now that not only it saves a huge amount of money on shipping costs because you can put the collection together. So when you're making a product, a question you could ask a buyer or that you can learn online by just searching is finding out what sizes fit into boxes, because you can't sell something that doesn't fit into a box size when it gets to the United States because it gets shipped out again. That's something we can go over later again, maybe at the show, because I'm going to even make an outline of some measurements that I could bring along.
Pricing. This is a big subject, and I think a lot of people are always asking about pricing. What is the right price? You really need to know, am I going to make money out of this? Because it's for profit, you're in business. You need to know what your profitability is. It's very important. It's a big subject. Know your competition. What are they selling at? What are their prices? So you don't just set up a price, you have to also be very competitive in your pricing. While you're pricing, you need to look at the cost of your raw materials, your profit margin, where are you getting it at a reasonable price? And normally if you're doing export, you're buying it in bigger volumes. So as you go to buy your materials, can you bargain for wholesale sourcing of your raw material costs? Because that will really change your pricing at the selling point. Consider also your time. How much time is involved in your production? How much is your time? You as a person, what is your cost? And I think this can be factored in as to how much do you want to earn? What are your expenses at your working space? How much rent do you pay? Do you use electricity? What other materials, your communication costs? You need to put all this together. Consider also using materials that are waste products, so you recycling, because this makes it cheaper. So you're constantly looking to find cheaper raw materials that can save on costs and therefore bring down your pricing. Wholesale pricing versus retail. And this is also something that will be very key to having at the show, because the show is focused towards wholesale buying. Make sure that you have a wholesale price versus a retail price. And it needs to be different. And this might be something that is relatively new to some of us. Leslie and I will be available during the show, and I hope we can be able to clear out some of this to guide you. But as you prepare for the show, I think it will be very important for you to have considered and worked out something that will work for a wholesale pricing, so that it can make it easy to communicate with buyers. And as we said, if you're not sure, buy time. Do not quote a price out of excitement. Please take your time, rework the price if you're not sure, and then give a price that you are very comfortable with. You need to price fairly for all parties involved. We do not want to just sell a product just by estimating a cost. We would expect that you've gone through your material costs, your time costs, and all the costs that are involved during the production. How much rent are you paying? How much electricity are you paying? What about your communication costs? Transport, logistics of bringing your raw materials from point A to point B. You need to really know all this and put it all together and work it out. So this takes time. Pricing is one of the biggest factors when you're selling on a wholesale. Whichever way, you have to think about yourselves on your profitability, and also think about the buyers, the person buying it for you. You need to have a really fair price so that everybody feels comfortable. So don't overprice. If you overprice, it means that you could lose an order. If you underprice also, it's not good, because eventually you will do the first order and on the second order, you will fail. So really think about your pricing. Can you sustain it? So by the time you're giving a price, make sure that you can sustain that price for up to 6 months at least, and discuss it with the buyer. Yeah, thank you.
Delivery. It must be on time, no exceptions unless you've cleared it with your team. Excuse me. Packaging and labeling. In the US market, we have to have a made in Kenya country of origin sticker on all the products that come in that enter the United States. I'm not sure what it's like in Europe or South Africa or Australia, but it's important to put that made in Kenya sticker on there. A lot of the buyers will provide those stickers for you if you don't have them. If not, they're very inexpensive. You can go to a print shop and just have them made. Also with labeling, some of these products are going further and they'll have barcodes or some other tagging requirement. That is something you should speak to the buyers about, because that is time consuming, and you want to make sure that if you have to pay for those stickers, that is captured in the price you're charging, as well as the time it takes to put those stickers on, and make sure everything's packaged correctly. Always do one last quality check, because at the end, everyone is in a rush. Everybody's rushing to make sure they hit that deadline. So you want to make sure that the quality is there. We've talked about communication. Organize your final payment. Now, each buyer does things differently, but most of them will pay upon when the goods leaving the country. I would think that is very important. Personally, I think it's very important to get paid before the goods actually leave, because you never know, unless you know your buyer well. And so always have a packing list and an invoice, and it has to be concise. It's not only for the buyer, it's for customs. When a cargo enters the country, we have to send the packing list to customs, and they will actually go through the boxes. So if they think what we say is in box number 5 is not correct, I mean, if they will check it and they will call you out on it, and they might confiscate all your cargo. So be clear on your packing list. If you have any questions about it, you should ask your buyer for some clarification. There we go.
So there are common mistakes that we all make. And so these are just points that you should be aware of. One of them is under communicating. And this is when you don't give all the information. If you have a problem, say with sourcing your raw material, sometimes you would go and get a raw material. When you go back, it's not there. Please communicate. If you're running late with your orders, please communicate. As Leslie said, even if it's bad, communicate. If you don't communicate, you don't build a good relationship with your buyer. Also, when you accept a deposit, use these funds correctly. We have had cases whereby a deposit is paid for an order, and by the time of delivery, you cannot deliver on time because you have less money. And this also comes up when you price your products wrong, you're given a deposit and you do not have enough to fulfill the whole order. So this is why it's important to look at your pricing. Don't get overexcited and quote a price that you cannot sustain. So only accept a deposit if you know you can deliver based on the price that you have quoted. Do not send poor quality merchandise. It costs a lot. So if you send your products and they're shipped out of the country and they reach the destination and they are poor quality, your buyer will not be able to sell them, neither will they be able to send them back to you. So in most cases, they will have to be trashed out. So quality control is one of the key aspects of export or sending your goods out. And this is something about building a good relationship. Do not send products that are poor quality just because you want to be paid. And remember that your buyer might not be at your point at that time. So they really, really trust you and they believe that you will send them products that are of the highest quality and match to the samples that have been picked up. So never sell your sample. Never sell your sample. That is big investment. Even if somebody offers you so much, some people say, oh, if I sell it, I'll make another one. It will never be the same one. So if a buyer picks up a sample, please keep it and use it as your prototype to producing the order that you have been given. So send products that vary from the sample. Do not do that. They have to match that sample. Look at it at all angles, measure, and I always say, keep on measuring. Do not leave your measuring tape and say, look, I know what it looks like, or I know what the measurements are. Quality control will really help you on getting good quality stuff. So also when you're tagging your products, Leslie mentioned about having a packing list. You need to tag the products well. It should be professional. Every item should have a tag. It has a code. You need to have all that. And this actually makes it easy when it comes to the logistics of handling an order and also for them at customs to be able to have a reference. Always send a packing slip and an invoice. This is very important. Without it, they do not have a reference point. Do not send more or less of what was ordered. This also brings issues at customs. And if you do, clear that out before you send it. This is part of communicating. If you send less than what was ordered, communicate. Before you send more than what was ordered, communicate. Do not take it for granted that it is okay. Communicate, communicate, communicate. There is nobody who will tell you you're bothering me. Ask, and you get the answers. And by the time that you're sending your products, you should all be on the same page. Also, another mistake that can cost you a lot of future orders is sending the wrong items, and this spoils your relationship because your trust is broken. So we really need to build a good relationship with our buyers by being aware of these common mistakes.
I just wanted to add to what Goodie said. I'm thinking of all these things as we're talking. Is you don't have to have it, but coding a product is so helpful. So if let's say you're showing 10 pairs of earrings, it could be E1, E2, E3, whatever it is, those go into your library. So when the customer reorders, it'll be tagged E3, and they can also order it by saying it's earring E3. So if you can do that, that's great. But if not, there are ways we can work around that. Producers' rights. I love this part because a lot of people get daunted by the buyers. When they come in, they think most of the buyers are quite nice, but there are those that will push you around and make themselves feel important. But the truth is, it's 50-50. It's a relationship that has to work together. So your rights are, you should receive a deposit. Now that I put 50%, but again, that's something you would work out with the buyer, but it's custom 50%. We already talked about finding out what the tagging and packing instructions are, because you don't want to accept an order and then find out later that they want only 2 to a box and you have to buy all these boxes, or they only, so make sure that you have all the details before you actually accept an order. And then you can determine your final price. Bank charges is something that comes up all the time because we will wire money to companies and the bank will take a chunk. Now, who's responsible for that? So you want to, again, talk about, make sure that everybody knows who's paying for those charges. Fair and equitable pay. I think we've talked enough about pricing. And you also have the right to request information about a company, because you certainly don't want to go through the whole production process only to find out that the company no longer exists.